Vice President J.D. Vance no longer traveling to Switzerland for negotiations today with Iran. The White House cited logistics for negotiations in announcing the postponement of the trip. The Swiss Foreign Ministry also said today's planned talks between the U.S., Iran, Qatar, and Pakistan would be pushed to a later date. Let's bring in MS Now international reporter Ines de la Cotera, who joins us live from Zurich. So, Ines, what more can you tell us about why these talks have been postponed and what it might mean for this larger process?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, so I am here in Zurich, not far from where those technical talks were set to begin. And I'll tell you, the hotel where we're staying at is packed with reporters who were hoping to cover that event. There are also a number of White House advanced staffers there who were all waiting for the vice president to make the trip over. We were also expecting Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to be here to meet with Iranian officials alongside mediators to kick off these technical talks. But we found out at the last moment that the talks were called off, that the vice president would not be making the trip over. So we actually got an email in the middle of the night from a White House spokesperson. So I'll read you that statement. They say, as the vice president said at his press conference, the plans for the upcoming technical talks have not been finalized, and the U.S. delegation has been prepared to depart at the first available opportunity. But the logistics of these negotiations have never been simple or predictable. As of now, the vice president is not departing tonight. We will let you know as soon as we have a concrete update about next steps. We look forward to beginning technical talks as soon as possible. So they don't really get into why the talks were called off. We did hear from a senior Iranian official moments ago who told MS Now it's difficult to see how talks can get underway around the MOU whilst Israeli hostilities continue in Lebanon. Regional officials have said the focus now is on Lebanon because, of course, the Israelis have launched overnight strikes on Lebanon. The death toll continuing to rise in Lebanon. We are now at least 21 people who were killed overnight in Lebanon. There were also 4 Israeli soldiers killed in southern Lebanon. So clearly the Israelis remaining defiant. We heard from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just a few days ago, who was basically rejecting this deal, suggesting that Israel wasn't bound by this deal, saying that the struggle continues and that Israel would not withdraw from Lebanon. The Iranians, of course, had repeatedly said that any permanent ceasefire must also include an end to the hostilities in Lebanon. And that's what we're hearing again from that senior Iranian official. So we'll see how that plays out. But there are real questions as to whether everything going on in Lebanon could really derail these talks. I will say we're also hearing from some in the far right in Israel who are kind of, fanning the flames here. Far right ministers who are really focused on the fact that these 4 Israeli soldiers were killed. They are calling for all of Lebanon to burn and for the gates of hell to open. That's significant because the Israeli prime minister is facing an election in the fall. So he is going to be under pressure domestically from these far right ministers to potentially keep the war against Hezbollah going. And this senior Iranian official telling MS Now that the death toll in Lebanon is unacceptable.
Okay, Ines, well, the good news is that June in Zurich is a lovely time to be there, and you may be there for a while because there are clearly so many issues that still have to be resolved. I'm seeing the same reports that you are of Iran seeking guarantees that hostilities in Lebanon will end before resuming U.S. talks. This has always been the sticking point. Would either Hezbollah attacking Israel or Israel attacking Hezbollah push the Iranians to get back involved in this, and therefore the whole thing crumbles? But set against that, we know, and we had Mark Caputo on the program just now, President Trump really, really does not want to get back involved in fighting again. He is done with this. He wants to move on. So how are people thinking about it there? I mean, I'm hearing in Washington from a surprising number of people that they think this doesn't hold, that it doesn't hold for very long, and some form of kind of cold, hot war continues for quite a while. What's the interpretation there in Zurich?
Yeah, so I mean, that is the big question here, is whether the president will be able to rein in Netanyahu. And I think that's what makes these overnight strikes all the more shocking, because we saw the vice president just yesterday warning Israel, blasting Israel, saying that Israel cannot not just kill its way through any national security problem. So we'll see. We know the President Trump has had heated conversations with the Israeli prime minister before over Lebanon. So, I'm expecting we're going to see more of that in the coming days. We'll see if he's able to rein in the Israelis. In terms of the mood here, I do think there's skepticism. There is skepticism from European leaders. I think we kind of saw that playing out at the G7. They were all kind of trying to drill down on the details. This was a G7 that was focused on Iran. Everybody trying to learn more about this deal. But there's still so much we don't know. And that's why these technical talks that were set to begin here were so crucial, because they're going to be hammering out these details, which will essentially decide whether this is a deal that can last or whether this will all fall apart again.
MS Now international reporter Inez de la Cuetara reporting live from Zurich this morning. Inez, thanks so much.